In the dry deserts of western China, archaeologists opened a tomb that had been sealed for more than 2,000 years. Inside, they found a man. Buried beside him, an angular harp, the bridles of his horses, and nearly 2 pounds of cannabis, still preserved, still intact, after 27 centuries underground. Whoever buried him wanted to be certain of one thing, that wherever he was going, he would never run out. But here's the strange part. This was never really about getting high. For most of human history, people didn't reach for mind-altering plants for fun. They believed these plants could do something far stranger. Open a door. A way to touch something beyond the ordinary world. To understand why, we have to go back. Not centuries. Thousands of years. Ancient humans wanted more than food today. If someone told you they'd spoken with spirits or seen visions of another world, you might assume they were hallucinating or struggling with their mental health. But anthropologists see something very different. In the 1970s, researchers carried out one of the largest studies of its kind. They examined 488 different societies, spread across every corner of the globe. And they found something remarkable. Around 90% of them, 437 cultures, had deliberate, organized rituals built to do one thing: change a person's ordinary state of mind. Some did it through dancing, others through chanting or fasting for days on end. Some used the steady pulse of a drum, some sat in deep meditation, and some turned to special plants. The methods looked different everywhere you went, but the goal was always the same. Changing consciousness wasn't unusual. It wasn't rare. It was almost universal. Something woven into nearly every human culture that has ever existed. Why humans did it? But these experiences usually weren't about pleasure. They were tools. People used them to heal the sick, to carry out religious ceremonies, to speak with their ancestors, to make contact with spirits, to prepare themselves for the most important rituals of their lives. And if that sounds distant from us, it shouldn't. Think about today. Many of us reach for coffee before a long day of work, a drink at a party to loosen up, a cigarette in a moment of stress. Ancient people weren't so different from us. The biggest difference was never what they used. It was why. Introduce cannabis. And one of the oldest plants humans kept coming back to, again and again across thousands of years, was cannabis. Genetic studies suggest it was first brought under cultivation around 12,000 years ago in East Asia. That makes it one of the very first plants our species ever domesticated. At first, it was endlessly useful. Its tough fibers were twisted into rope. Its stalks were woven into cloth. Its seeds were eaten as food, and its leaves and flowers were used as medicine. For most of that history, cannabis was simply a crop, a practical, everyday plant. But eventually, researchers found evidence it was being used for something else entirely, something that had nothing to do with rope or cloth or food. The Jerzankal discovery. High in the Pamir Mountains, nearly 10,000 feet above sea level, lies a place called the Jerzankal Cemetery. Around 500 BC, people were laid to rest here in elaborate tombs. And buried alongside them, archaeologists found something unusual: wooden braziers, small containers that once held burning coals and stones. When scientists ran a chemical analysis on the residue left inside, they found the unmistakable signature of burned cannabis. But this wasn't ordinary cannabis. It carried unusually high levels of THC, the compound responsible for the plant's mind-altering effects, far higher than the wild plants growing nearby. This wasn't someone smoking alone in a corner. The evidence points to cannabis being burned during funeral ceremonies, its smoke filling enclosed spaces, possibly carrying entire groups of mourners into an altered state together. Around the world. Keep this fast, approximately 20 to 25 seconds per beat. No lingering. And this was no isolated event. The same story repeats all across the ancient world. In China, cannabis ran deep, woven into some of the oldest medical traditions on Earth, used to treat pain and illness for thousands of years. To the west roamed the Scythians, nomadic horsemen of the open steppe. They heated stones until they glowed, threw cannabis on top, and sat inside sealed tents, breathing the thick vapor that filled the air. We know this thanks to the Greek historian Herodotus. Around 440 BC, he described them howling with joy inside their smoke-filled tents. For ages, scholars assumed he'd made the whole thing up, until archaeologists dug up the very stones and charred seeds he'd described. Far to the south, in India, cannabis turned sacred. The Atharva Veda, one of Hinduism's oldest texts, lists it among 5 sacred plants: a giver of joy, a reliever of fear. And even today, a preparation called bhang is still shared during festivals like Holi and Mahashivaratri, the night of Shiva. And back in China, a legendary physician named Hua Tuo, who lived some 1800 years ago, is said to have invented one of the world's first surgical anesthetics. Its name translates roughly to cannabis boil powder. The exact recipe was lost to history, but many believe cannabis lay at its very core. The brain twist. But here's the part that's almost hard to believe. Your body already makes its own version of cannabis. Deep inside your brain, you produce a chemical called anandamide. Its name comes from the Sanskrit word ananda, meaning bliss, and it works in a way that's strikingly familiar. Across the surface of your brain cells sit tiny docking points called CB1 receptors. Think of them as locks. Anandamide is one of the keys your body makes all on its own, helping shape your mood, your memory, your sense of pain. And when you take cannabis, THC slips straight into those very same locks. It fits a keyhole your brain was already using. In other words, that ancient plant works because it imitates something we'd been carrying inside us all along. The modern shift. For thousands of years, this was the pattern. Almost every culture kept these powerful substances inside something larger than themselves. A ritual, a ceremony, a healing tradition, a religion. Wine became sacred at the communion table. Cannabis smoke rose through Chinese ancestor rites. Sacred plants colored the great festivals of India. There were rules. There was meaning. There was a reason. Today, much of that has fallen away. For many people now, these substances are simply a way to relax, to have fun, to unwind after work, or fit in at a party. And that quiet shift from sacred to casual is one of the biggest cultural changes in the entire human story. Which brings us back to that tomb in the deserts of Western China. The man buried there knew nothing of modern drug laws, nothing of courtrooms or political debates or the arguments we still have today. To the people who lowered him into the ground, this was never just a plant. It was medicine. It was ritual. It was a bridge between this world and the next. And judging by the evidence archaeologists are still pulling from the earth all across the ancient world, humans have been searching for that bridge for a very, very long time. Maybe we still are.